Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Burns. Bill Churchwell has the night off. We are 14 days into hurricane season, and all eyes are on the weather in the Gulf. Kristen Diaz is standing by with an update on the tropical system that could be heading towards the Texas coast by Tuesday morning. And again, stay tuned to 3 News and check out our website, our Facebook page as well for all the latest developments on this potential tropical storm. The capital murder trial for 27-year-old Daniel Garcia resumes tomorrow after a week of prosecution presenting evidence. Daniel Garcia is accused of fatally shooting convenience store owner Benjamin Mustafa during an attempted robbery at his convenience store at Ayers and Brownlee just over a year ago. Our Brianna Whitney is live at that convenience store tonight to give us a wrap of what happened in court this week and what we can expect from the trial tomorrow. Brianna? Thank you, Brianna. 2 brothers were rushed to the hospital this afternoon after being pulled out of the water on Padre Island. CCPD says just before 2 or just after 2 o'clock, EMS responded to Access Road 3 just past Zahn Road on Highway 361, where 2 brothers aged 14 and 11 were pulled from the water by their father and Good Samaritans. It is not known how long the 2 were in the water. Witnesses performed CPR on the 2 until medics arrived. City police tell us the condition of the 2 has improved enough for them to be transported to Driscoll Children's Hospital for further care, but they do remain in serious condition tonight. New details inside the prison break making international headlines from the woman accused of helping 2 convicted killers escape. As the pair remained at large, that woman is now behind bars, and now investigators are revealing what she told them. ABC's Philip Mina shows us the plans the employee had with the prisoners just hours after the brazen escape. ABC News has also learned one or both of the escapees may have had a cell phone in prison, although Mitchell said she didn't provide that. She is due back in court tomorrow. Celebrating freedom in the Coastal Bend. Coming up next, we take you to Juneteenth services around the area, what the holiday means for locals. But before we take a break, let's check in with Kristen Diaz with a quick check of the weather. Hey there, Kristen. Dozens celebrated Juneteenth services this morning at the Hillcrest Church of Christ. The service was the latest of several observances celebrating the date when word of the Emancipation Proclamation reached slaves in Texas some 150 years ago. Hannah Carter, the Juneteenth Coalition Committee chair, says it's a time of joy. Commemoration of Juneteenth continues tonight at the Solomon Coles Awards Banquet at the Emerald Beach Hotel beginning at 6:30. The way you were yelling, I thought you had money on it. All right. Thank you so much, Ian.
Before the show,
that.
not
Before the show. That's right. Still to come on 3 News, see how some of your neighbors celebrated World Blood Donor Day and how you can help. Today is World Blood Donor Day, and many of your neighbors stepping up to give blood, stepping up to save 3 lives with that one donation. Leticia Mondragon with the Coastal Bend Blood Center says that because high school students make up most of their donations throughout the year, the summer months are much harder to find donors. Today, a blood drive was held at the Holy Family Church on Nogales Street in honor of World Blood Donor Day. To find out where upcoming blood drives are happening, just visit coastalbendbloodcenter.org. And that'll wrap up this late edition of 3 News Saturday. For Ian Steele and Kristen Diaz and the entire 3 News Weekend crew, I'm Brian Burns. Have a good night. Well, over my shoulder, you can see Port and Tarleton, and what a big difference between now and just a few hours ago. Let's show you some video that we took earlier this evening. This is video of Port and Tarleton at about 6:30, where we saw dozens of cars parked around gas stations and businesses trying to avoid stalling in the high water. And we saw a lot of people in that high water trying to get through it in their cars any way they could. This was Nueces Bay Boulevard around the same time. We heard of some water entering homes along Lois Lynch Drive off I-37 near Port. We found one woman getting her van pulled out of standing water after it stalled out.
Since it was raining really bad, I just assumed it wasn't that deep because it rains here all the time, and the times it's rained really badly, it hasn't gotten that bad. So by the time I managed to get out, it was at my waist, it was really high, and I was pretty sure this car is not going to work anymore.
Residents in this neighborhood say they've seen the streets flood, but not this badly.
I kind of expected it because of the way everything's built, so everything's downhill around this area.
See how where it came up to here?
Yeah.
Lucky it was right here in the...
Well, tell how long you lived here, dear?
About 3 years.
And have you ever seen it like this?
No, not like this. Not this bad. It was up to my porch.
I think this is the worst it's been in a while. No, I think I can handle that. I'll probably have to buy a canoe.
The biggest problem in this storm may be the number of cars and trucks stalled out. Now, we talked to one tow truck driver who said the West Side, Port Morgan, Baldwin, Crosstown, and all of the access roads near our highways have been the spots where he got most of his calls to tow water stalled cars from. Now, tow truck driver dispatchers tell us tonight that as far as they know, most of the water has subsided from all of the access roads, all of the places where it was high earlier this evening. So we hope it'll be a quiet night. Live from Port and Tarleton, Brian Burns, 3 News. Joe, Katia? Joe, Katia, the tide is coming in, should be in just before 3 o'clock in the morning, and this is what it's bringing. Big globules of tar. Several inches thick. It looks bad, it smells bad, and it's very sticky. According to people we talked with, these tar balls have been washing ashore since before Memorial Day, but just not this big. At least the past 10 days. We spoke with a couple of beachgoers who say the tar balls are an awful mess.
I've seen huge tar balls, some of them 3-4 feet in diameter and probably a good
2 to 4 inches thick.
2 to 4 inches thick. Over and over. It's been happening for about a week, and it's getting worse right now.
Oh, it's frustrating. You know, I've seen it before, but, you know, nobody wants tar on the beach.
We found a first responder from the General Land Office taking samples of this tar. He says the state is checking a 60-mile-long area stretching from Port Aransas to the national seashore. He tells us so far the state has no idea where these tar balls are coming from.
We have occasions where tar will, you know, wash up seasonally. You know, there's over 600 natural seeps in the Gulf, so we're just following up to see what we have, make sure, you know, we clean everything up as best as we can.
Brent Koza says 20 to 30 workers will be on the beach tomorrow cleaning the tar balls from the sand. Also, the Coast Guard will be in the air checking to see if more large areas of tar are floating towards the coastal bend. I'd like to show you just how thick these globs of tar are as the tide's coming in here. A good 3-4 inches right there, and it is nasty looking. We did have a chance to call Tony Amos at the Animal Rehabilitation Keep in Port Aransas. He says they haven't had any reports yet of animals that have been affected by this tar, but they will be out searching the next couple of days to make sure that no animals are in distress. Joe, Katia? When you look closely at water from our bays and estuaries, it looks fairly clear. Does that mean it's healthy? One local marine biologist says it is.
We're actually in pretty good condition compared to many other places around the U.S. and around the world.
But with the so-called brown tide evident throughout the coastal bend, how can the water be healthy?
In some cases it can be wastewater derived, like from wastewater effluent. It can come from the atmosphere in some cases. In agricultural dominated watersheds, it can come from fertilizer runoff. And so there's a big puzzle that we have to put together to figure out where it's coming from.
But Michael Wetz, an associate professor of marine biology, says the brown tide doesn't seem to affect the size or health of the many species of fish that live in our waterways. That doesn't mean it's good news for those who make their living showing people where to catch trout, flounder, black drum, sheepshead, or any of the many other types of fish that are reeled in here every day.
I fish 3 times harder to catch half as many.
David Rousey is a fishing guide who's been leading people to fishing spots or fishing for his own pleasure since the 80s and says the brown tide is having an impact.
I was here before the original brown tide started. This bloom that's taking place now is pretty epic as far as I'm concerned, because it's early in the season and it's already as far north as, you know, the JFK Causeway.
The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department says there's no evidence that brown tide poses any danger to people, but it is a nuisance throughout the coastal bend.
In the Baffin Bay area, you know, we're dealing with issues We have a very strong agricultural influence in the watershed. And then also we have this 2 to 3 degrees Celsius water temperature increase over the past 30 years, and that just adds an additional stressor on these systems.
The problem here at Cole Park is sometimes this water has too much bacteria in it to swim in safely. So even though it wouldn't affect the fish, you certainly wouldn't want to jump in. And Dr. Wett says the bacteria problem can be traced back directly to animal feces that is washed off land and streets into the bay. But that doesn't impact fishing. A study is underway to determine scientifically what is causing elevated levels of nitrogen and phosphates in the water. And those who volunteered to collect water samples are helping out for the sake of future generations.
I've already had a wonderful fishing career. The small children, they have a right to it as well, so things we can do to improve it and watch over it is what we should do.
Another volunteer who's lived in the area for 60 years is worried about the brown tide in Baffin Bay.
Early 90s to mid 90s, the water clarity dropped to the consistency like chocolate milk. It was very bad. And noticed a gradual decrease in fishing enjoyment.
But the Laguna Madre and Baffin Bay produces more fish than even Galveston Bay, according to the Parks and Wildlife Department. And talking to those fishing in local waters, you'll hear different things when you ask, how are they biting?
In the years past, we've caught a lot of big fish, good fish out here.
It seems like it's getting a little harder, a little tougher.
I came several years back when I was younger, and it wasn't as good. Now it's pretty good.
I used to live in Kansas City, Missouri. I came down to Texas, and the fish were biting so good that I decided I'd move to Texas. That was well over 50 years ago. To me, I would say it's got worse.
Brian Burns, 3 News.